Welcome to this week's autism news. An 8-year-old autistic boy in Erie, Pennsylvania is being credited with saving his entire family when he woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and, on his way to the bathroom, saw that the house was on fire. He went to his mother's room and alerted her to the danger, and his entire family was able to make it out of the house safely. In Arizona, the first ever autism certified city is being recognized by the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Educational Standards. Nearly 60 businesses and organizations in Mesa and in surrounding areas created autism certification training, and each are now deemed a certified autism center by the IBCCES. This effort was begun when the CEO of Visit Mesa had a vacation experience with his own autistic son, who is 6 years old. While they were traveling, he realized how uncomfortable and unwelcome they were made to feel, both by other travelers, but also by service industry personnel who he felt should know better. He said, "This is wrong. I'm going to do something about this in my hometown in Mesa," and that's how they began embarking on this journey. The Mesa Chamber of Commerce and other factions of the city and nonprofits immediately embraced the idea. More than 500 Mesa Parks Recreation and Community Facilities employees and 1,200 Mesa Police Department, public safety, and law enforcement officers are fully committed to autism certification training, which is pretty impressive if you think about those numbers. And to date, nearly 4,000 community members have also completed or committed to the autism certification. Honestly, that is pretty impressive. Good job, Mesa. There have been 2 different eloping stories this week, and one has an ending that is the kind that we always hope for. That one's out of Union Township in Ohio, where a 15-year-old boy walked away from his home, and police had announced that he liked to walk along Ohio Pike and sometimes into gas stations and other businesses in the area, and they gave a description, and thankfully he was found safely. Meanwhile, the search has gone less well in and around a remote region in Wyoming. Joey Peterson wandered away from his family's Wyoming home wearing a sweatshirt and pajama pants. He may have been barefoot. Since he wandered away, the temperatures have been brutally cold and have dipped below freezing. On the 22nd, after 12 days of searching, it was announced that law enforcement was considering the search to now be a recovery effort. They had found footprints nearly 6 miles away from his home in steep, difficult terrain, showing that he had made it quite some distance. 10 law enforcement agencies had searched over 240 square miles of remote terrain using mounted searchers, tracking experts, canine teams, and drones. I still hope that somehow there is a miracle and that they end up getting a safe ending to this story where Joey gets to come home to his family and his brothers and sisters and parents. A new coffee shop in North Smithfield, Rhode Island was started by a man who is on the autism spectrum after he struggled to find a job. He turned 21 and he'd applied to multiple places, and his friends were getting jobs and no place would hire him. So his mom suggested that he look into alternative sources of employment. Michael took matters into his own hands. He enrolled in business classes and he opened his own coffee shop, Red, White, and Brew. The coffee shop has been very busy and he says it's been a lot of fun. Down the line, he hopes to hire others with special needs to spread the message that people with disabilities are hard workers too. On the other side of the gift shop is a craft store called Budding Violets, where you can purchase homemade gifts, many of which are made by artists with disabilities. The coffee shop is open 7 days a week, and if you're nearby, you should definitely stop by. I am interested to see how this story from West Jordan, Utah played out, because as a mom of an eloper, if this happened to me, I would actually be really, really relieved that this teacher was with my daughter. Basically, an autistic girl was walking out of the door to her school when a teacher saw her. Amy Martz says, "I've dedicated my life to helping children. I'm a rule follower. I stay safely on the side of policy and law." She is a 6th grade teacher, and she previously served as a principal for 13 years and as a lawyer for children. She saw a 1st grader who was autistic crying, and she felt like she could help her. And she was holding a water bottle over her head and she was sobbing uncontrollably. There had been a water main break at the school earlier in the day and the water was shut off. The girl continued to cry loudly, and she said, "Come on, I'll walk with you. Tell me how you get home." They went over to the buses, and she asked the girl if she needed to get onto one of the buses, and the girl shook her head no. The little girl pulled her by her hand to a crosswalk. Mart says that she thought they were going to find her mother. Later, she realized that the little girl didn't have any idea where she was going, so she called the school and administrators to tell them that she was in a little bit of a pickle. At that point, the two had been gone for 40 minutes, and so another teacher found them and gave the two of them a ride back to the school where the girl's parents were waiting, and I'm sure that they were absolutely terrified. After talking with the parents, the little girl wrapped her arms around the teacher and gave her a hug, and she's done so twice at school since the incident. What's happened since then? She has been accused of kidnapping, which just doesn't seem to be, I don't know, proportional. I mean, if the little girl was crying that hard, I'm guessing that she didn't even realize that she had any sort of disability. She just thought that she was crying really hard because she was thirsty. She was trying to get her home. She thought the little girl knew where she was going. She then quickly realized, or not too quickly, but she then, as they went along, realized that the little girl didn't know where she was going and that she needed help, and she called for help. This sounds like an honest mistake from somebody who is trying to help a child. Kidnapping charges just seem pretty big for a misjudgment. Marta's lawyers say that the charges against her client are life-changing, which, yeah. And she says that this comes down to intent. This is a first-degree felony with a 15-year sentence. I don't know. As a parent of a kid who elopes, if someone saw Maggie, my hope would be that they would take her hand. My hope would be that a teacher would find her and take her hand. And if that was the situation, honestly, I would not be upset at all. Because honestly, accidents happen. The woman was obviously trying to help. I mean, there have been plenty of times when I have been scared because of our various eloping instances, and knowing that she was safe with an adult, a trusted adult, a teacher, I mean, that is pretty much the best case scenario in an eloping event. My question is, how is this little girl, who was apparently not verbal enough to tell her anything about where she was supposed to be going, how was she going out of the school by herself in this distressed state? I mean, that I think is the bigger question. They were pretty lucky, I think, unless there's more to the story that I don't know, that an adult who was trustworthy came across her and not a predator. To me, to jump to this first-degree felony and destroying the life of someone who actually kept the child safe when the child was leaving the school by herself just seems so very counterintuitive. I just don't understand this at all. That was the last news story, and that is it for today. If you like this video, we would love it if you'd give it a thumbs up, and if you're interested in all things autism, we'd love it if you'd hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.